Okay, well, like I said, welcome to our student visa workshop. Um, Today we are going to be going over the student visa information. So if you have any other post-decision questions, please feel free to email me or Abby or Adam, and we can address those. But today we're going to strictly go over the student visa process. With that, I'd like to introduce our team. So my name is Alana Carroll, and I am the Study Abroad Coordinator for Italy, specifically for the John Felice Rome Center, and I handle all of the post-acceptance elements. And so here is my contact information here. And just so you know, with this recording, I will be posting that onto our Go Global brochure page for the Rome Center. So you'll have access to this recording and also to these slides. So you can go back and use that as a resource. My other team members are Adam Schilling and Abby Linneman. They are both assistant directors for enrollment management for the Rome Center. So they probably most likely helped you with your whole program when you were looking at the program, helping you through the application itself and any other questions that you may have had or may still have in regards to the Rome Center. All three of us are here to help you. One of the things that I want to point out is that, we do use and navigate for appointments. So again, here are links to our various navigate sections that will link up with our calendars. So you can look to see when we're available to set up appointments. But again, just keep in mind, if it's anything in relation to post-acceptance, you're going to want to work with me specifically. And then down here, these are also good to point out that you can send a general inquiry to rome@luc.edu. If you don't remember myself, Adam, or Abby, you can always do that. In addition to that, I'd like to point out these other websites. The luc.edu/Rome is where you went in initially to do your application. That's a great resource for information for you regarding the campus. And also the Go Global portal. Like I mentioned, there is a brochure page that has really helpful tabs for information regarding the center. So I tell students, I point those out because you want to utilize both of those resources. So then let's get started with the student visa process. The student visas. So in order, in order to study abroad at the Rome Center, students must have a student visa. Students without a valid Italian or European Union passport will need to acquire a student visa for the fall 2024 semester. So if you have an EU passport that is unexpired and it is valid 6 months past the end date of the program, you can study in Italy without a student visa. Or if you have, like I mentioned, an Italian passport, same goes. It has to be unexpired for 6 months past the end date. So if you do have those, if you do have those in your possession, you want to make sure that you make copies of those and you upload those to your Go Global portal. As you're working through, you've noticed there are what we call pre-decision elements. And so most of you have worked through those already. And then we have post-decision elements. And so both of them have an element that's in relation to the passport. So just make sure you upload that and answer those questions appropriately. If you hold citizenship in a non-EU country other than the USA, please just reach out to rome@luc.edu or myself, and I can assist you further on that process. So the types of in-person appointments, one, you can either do a Consulate General of Italy in Chicago. All students, that's an in-person appointment. All students are eligible for a visa appointment here, whether you're a Loyola student or a visiting student. Because you are a student with Loyola, and for the visiting students, it means in regards to that semester, you all have access to the Chicago Consulate as a jurisdiction. If you live elsewhere outside of the Chicago Consulate, if your home state is, let's say, in New York, or if you are in California, like in LA, there are different regions and areas. So you can you can apply or utilize the consulate in their jurisdictions. And so this is a hyperlink to that. So I just want to show you here. This is the consular network. So it states with that hyperlink here for the Boston consulate, these are the jurisdictions. So if you live in the states of Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, or Vermont, you are eligible to utilize that Consulate General of Italy in Boston. And so you can scroll down here to see where you might fall into place. The other thing that I want to point out here is at the bottom, there is a U.S. Honorary Consular Network. And so if you click on that, it'll give you a list of the consular correspondence. And essentially they're an extension of these consulates. So let's say your jurisdiction is Chicago and you can't get an appointment, which right now all those appointments are booked. You could see if there is an honorary consulate correspondent for that area, and you can reach out to them and you can work with them to go through your documents, and they can do the witness your signature, things like that. Otherwise, let me go back here. That's where I mentioned here, meeting with them, followed by mailing everything. Otherwise, the other option is to do the mail-in option, which is for the Chicago Italian Consulate. Study visa applicants can submit their application by mail. You just have to make sure that the forms are signed and dated in front of a notary public or an honorary consul or consular correspondent that I mentioned earlier. Just be mindful that if you are doing a mail-in option, a rush process is not possible and that Loyola cannot intervene on your behalf. So a little bit later on in the presentation, I'm going to go over some of the dates and such for you. So you have, as I mentioned, two types of appointments. You can do an in-person appointment or you can do a mail-in option. I will say that the majority of our students end up doing the mail-in option because it's very hard to secure some of those in-person appointments unless you've done it early on. And I'll go over a little bit more later on how to continue to look to see if any appointments open up. But I will say the majority of our students do go with the mail-in option. So when should one apply for the student visa? There is what we call a 180-day window in which you are able to apply for that student visa. That window is 180 days before the official start of the study abroad program. And so your move-in date for the fall 24 term is August 28th. So that window opened up in late February. So some students have already utilized that and they've had an in-person appointment, which is great. Others are about to come up to that. Another group are just starting to get all their documents together to do that mail-in option, but the time is now. You can do that right now. Scheduling your appointment. So there's a platform for booking visa appointments. It's called Prenota at MI, which can be accessed at this website. If you are having a difficult time finding an available appointment, which I just checked on Prenota for Chicago only, all those appointments are taken up. However, what some students, if you're persistent and you really want that in-person appointment, a lot of students will go and check that website at midnight Rome time, which is about 5 o'clock our time, to see if there are any new available appointments or something's been reposted. So sometimes you're lucky and you may be able to snatch up one of those appointments that were dropped or canceled. So you can do that. Or, as time starts eating away, then you need to kind of pivot and start collecting all those documents and thinking about the mail-in option if you have not secured an appointment already. One thing I just want to note here is you can only have one Prenota reservation account. So with one consulate. So if you've created one for Chicago and you are eligible for the Detroit one, you're going to have to delete the one for Chicago and create one for Detroit. So that's kind of that game where you kind of bounce off of which consulate you can use if you fall into dual jurisdictions. So just make sure that you are aware of that if you're having any issues. I always tell students, For those in-person appointments, we want to aim to have those appointments scheduled before July 15th. Each consulate is different, and so their processing times can vary. For the Chicago one, and again, it can vary, things may come up in place, but my understanding is for those in-person appointments, they've had a turnaround rate for in-person only, which is about 10 business days, so about 2 weeks. And again, that could be a little bit more coming into the summer months, but that's what I've been hearing. If you do a mail-in option, please send your materials in no later than June 15th. The reason why I say that is for the mail-in option, it's much longer. So it can be anywhere from 4 to potentially 8 weeks for the processing. So you need to account for that when you're looking at your timeline, because we need to know that you have a student visa in order to go on the program. If you don't have a student visa, you cannot travel to the Rome Center. So just be mindful of these dates. So what documents do you need to apply for a student visa? Essentially, the basic documents are the same for all the Italian consulates throughout the US. However, some consulates may require additional documents. So I tell students always check the website for the Italian consulate through which you are applying for a complete list. And that burden is on you as a student. So our office cannot look at every single consulate throughout the US. We're more savvy, obviously, for the Chicago one, because that's what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I do know, like, sometimes the LA has additional requirements, or the New York one may ask for another list, another document, or something has to be copied, 3 times versus 2 times, things like that. So as a student, you have to make sure, if you're going to utilize one of those other consulates, that you're looking to make sure that you have everything needed for that. So once you have all of your various documents assembled, you want to bring them to your in-person appointment. Please note that the consulate, as I mentioned, will take your passport while they are processing this application. So do not plan any trips abroad during that processing time, because you relinquish your passport to them. So they have that. So if you have that in-person appointment, that's where it's a little to your advantage, because it's a less amount of time versus mailing, which will take longer. So if you are scheduled for any travel over the summer internationally, you probably want to make sure that you're looking and planning, and you're going to send this in much earlier. Also, reach out to me. We can talk about that. But again, that passport will not be available to you while it's being processed. So just be aware of that. So as I mentioned, the student responsibility. This is where you as the student have the responsibility of collecting all of these documents. So we kind of put together here a little list of what that document checklist is. Again, as I always say, the source of truth is going to be the consulate. So when I work with students, I always tell them, I can provide this, I can tell you about it, but I really want you working off of those consulate pages, their websites for this. So the first thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to be filling out what's called a visa application. So you're going to print and fill out the visa application form for long-term stay, which is 91 to 365 days. I would like to show you what that looks like. I have it on our page, and actually I'll come back to that. I'll show you in the resources where it is, but I have a template that I've created that has all of essentially the answers to most of those questions. Obviously, some of them are going to be individual, like your date of birth, your passport numbers, your flight itineraries, things like that. But I've gone ahead and I've created that template, which is super helpful in answering these questions. The other thing is you're going to need a passport size photo attached to that visa application. You can go to a CVS Walgreens or CVS or Walgreens, or you can go to our campus card office, which is located here at the Lakeshore campus on the first floor of the Sullivan Center. and I believe it's like $10 and you get 2 passport size photos. If you have extra ones, if you just recently renewed your passport, then you can use one of those extra ones as well. The next thing is you'll need to provide them, as I said, the actual physical passport plus 1 copy of the photo and signature page. For non-US citizens, you're going to do the original and 1 copy of the permanent residence card. And there's more details on the Chicago consulate page here. I have it hyperlinked. And if you fall into that category, again, you can take a look at this, or you can reach out to me and I can help assist you with that further. In addition to that, the consulate requires that you have a photocopy, not the original. Don't give up your driver's license, but a photocopy of your driver's license or your state ID. And I always say the school ID. This helps determine the eligibility to apply for the visa at that particular consulate. This is great because if you are a California, you reside, your home state is California, do the driver's license for California, but I also recommend doing your Loyola ID as well. That way they know that you are a Loyola student and therefore you are able and eligible to be at the Chicago consulate. The next one is the study abroad insurance letter and acceptance letter. This is organized through Loyola, through me actually, after and only after your flight itinerary information and upload is completed within your Go Global. So I cannot generate these until you've completed that element. It's in your post-decision tab. And so once you do complete that, the software system gives me essentially a trigger, an email that says, Mrs. Smith has completed this flight itinerary, and I have usually about 10 business days to generate those letters. So don't upload it and answer it, and the very next day you have an in-person appointment. You're not going to get those letters in time. So just be mindful that there are other people behind the scenes having to create these documents for you, these letters, signatures, things like that. So usually I do turn those around faster than the 10 business days, but like I said, it's not a guarantee. So just make sure, or if we're getting close and you haven't received it, shoot me an email and just say, hey, I have an in-person appointment on such and such date. I haven't received my letters. Is there something going on? And we'll figure out what it is and make sure that we get those to you. For the visiting students, for those letters, I need you to send me an email where you would like those letters to be mailed to, and a complete address. So first name, last name, if it's a certain hall, at Marquette University in Milwaukee, provide the street, the number, things like that. So I need all that information. Okay. And then the next item here is the proof of financial means. So this gets, some of the students get a little nervous about this, but essentially it's the Italian government creates a calculation of what they feel is the amount of money that you need to be in their country. And so this calculation is a minimum of 1,000 per month of stay. So for the students that are attending in the fall, we calculate that to be 4,500. And so you will need to provide proof to them that you have those financial means. And so the way to do that is either you have one or two options. The first option is to produce 3 most recent bank statements. And the second option is a letter from a US bank institution on the bank's letterhead, signed by a bank official with a recent date indicating an account balance. And so, as I mentioned, that's a minimum of 1,000 per month of stay. And so for those fall term students, that's 4,500. So you'll want to print those out. And with those bank statements, it does not have to be 4,500 for each of those statements. They want to see 3 bank statements and want to see the history of your finances there, but the most recent one is the one that really counts, that you have to have that 4,500. So you could have 2 other earlier bank statements that may only have 3,000. It's the most recent one that has to have the 4,500. And then for the year-long students, you'll do that calculation from the start of your program to the end of your program. If you have questions about it, again, just reach out to me and I can help you with that. If the proof of financial means is coming out of that, I said the bank statements, that has to be in the student's account. That's the easiest. If you do not have those financial means and you are relying on some financial aid, let's say you only have like 1,000 or 2,000 in your bank account, but you do receive some financial aid, then you need to reach out to our financial aid office, which is at lufinaid@luc.edu, so that they can recalculate your package and they'll create a letter that will provide support for what you anticipate to have for that term. And so some students will use that as a combination of what they're anticipating coming in for their financial means and what they currently have. So just be, again, mindful of that. If you are relying on financial aid, you do need to get that letter created, and I would do that sooner versus later. Again, there's lots of people behind the scenes, so don't leave it to the last minute. Another way that students handle the proof of financial means is by having their parent or legal guardians be the support for their financial means. If that's the case, and every family's dynamic is slightly different, if that's the case, then there's an additional layer. So what your parent or legal guardian will have to do is the same thing. They'll have to provide the 3 most recent bank statements or the letter with that minimum amount. But in addition to that, they will have to submit an affidavit of support, which has to be notarized as well. And so I do have hyperlinks in some of the other slides to those documents. So I have that there for you, but just be mindful. And lastly, some students will just have their parents potentially transfer that money into their bank account so that they eliminate that last layer. So again, it's very individual. It depends upon your family dynamics, things like that. So if you have more specific questions about the financial means, again, I'm happy to help. You can ask away. We'll have a little time after this presentation for questions. If you're not comfortable asking at that point, you can always email me as well. Okay. The next item for the student visa document checklist is the confirmed flight in and out of Italy. So if you are a year-long student, you could present a one-way ticket together with proof of available funds for the purchase of a return ticket. And you would just cushion that amount into your proof of financial means. But for the fall students, the students that are only attending for one term, you do have to provide a round ticket itinerary. So not only do I need it in the Go Global portal for the risk management piece, the Italian government, the consulate needs it because they need to see when you're coming into their country and when you're leaving their country. And just keeping in mind that that flight in and out of Italy has to be for the duration of time of the program, the program time. So you have a start date and an end date. And we can talk more about that if needed later. Lastly, the Chicago Consulate General accepts only money orders payable to the Consulate General of Italy, Chicago. And so here's the hyperlink for those consular fees. And that's when you go to that page on their consulate, and I'm referring to the Chicago one, at the bottom, it'll say consular fees. When you click on that, the document actually comes up in Italian. It does not convert over to English. So that's why I put in parentheses what it is. It's the Visto Nazionale per Motivi di Studio. And so as of today, that was $53.70. Again, I always want you going onto the consulate page to look at those fees because something could change. So make sure that you're aware of that and looking. And then I have a sample in the next slide to kind of show you what a money order is. A lot of people don't understand what it is, so we'll go through that. The next point here is if you are doing the mail-in option, you need to make sure that you have the appropriate envelopes to, one, send all your materials in, but two, to have those materials come back to you. So when I'm discussing this information, be mindful that you're going to need two envelopes. So they must be a USPS Express or Priority Mail envelope. They could be FedEx or UPS, but both of them should have a tracking number, and they're prepaid, and they need to be self-addressed, and then you need to have a photocopy of the label. So what I like to tell students in regards to this is you are sending a lot of valuable information in this packet, in this document checklist. Not only do you have all these documents we talked about here, but you have your passport, you have a money order. So you want to make sure that it gets to the consulate, and you want to know when it's coming back. And the only way to do that is through tracking numbers. So when you go to get an envelope, the two envelopes, you want to make sure that you have those tracking numbers and that you take a picture or write that down. So when you put everything together, you're going to jump onto, if you're using USPS, you're going to jump onto their website and plug in that tracking number and look to see after you mailed it, like a day or two later, jump in, plug in the tracking number, and make sure that it was delivered to the consulate. And then, as I say, it can take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks for processing. So on your timeline, on your phone, whatever works for you, calculate out about 4 weeks to start looking with on their website with the other tracking number to know when it's coming back. The Chicago consulate does not email, call, or notify you when they finish the process. So it's your responsibility to look at those tracking numbers to see when they're coming back. And we cannot intervene. We can't make that process go any faster. They respond just as slowly to you as they do to us. So it's just important that you have that tracking information so you can see where it's at. Lastly, if you are sending this by mail, there is a form called consent to send by mail. You do need to fill that out and sign that, and that has to be included in this document checklist. It essentially releases the Italian government from any wrongdoing should your passport be lost, stolen, or damaged. They're not responsible for it. So this is kind of an important form from their perspective, so they won't even look at your documents unless that's in here, and that's only for the mail-in option. Here is what I wanted to talk about with regards to the money order. Applicants are required to pay a processing fee in the form of a personal money order. Please check the exact amount, as I mentioned, on your consulate's website. It could vary by consulate as well. So that's why I say it's really important that if you are using a different consulate than Chicago, that you are looking at that. You're going to make your money order out to the Consulate General of Italy, and so for this one would be Chicago, and you would use the address of that consulate. Please make sure to write your name, your home address, and phone number on your money order. And you can purchase one of these money orders at a US post office. You can go to a bank, a currency exchange. There's a couple different options for you. So just be aware of that. And then sometimes there is a fee to have a money order process for you. So I think the post office, it's about $2 or $3. So for Chicago, the consular fee is $53.70. So you'll have to have that amount of money, but you'll also have to have an additional fee of like $3 for that. And then any alteration to the money order, like whiteout, it will render it unacceptable. So don't make any changes to that. So here I kind of put, this is what a money order looks like, a postal money order. And so you will see here that you'll put your information here, the consulate's address, their city, state, zip code, visa fee. This is where your information will go. And then the amount. So for the mail-in option, here's the address. So once your documents are assembled per the instructions on their website, they can be mailed to the Consulate General of Italy. And here's their address, 500 North Michigan Avenue, Suite 1850, and then Chicago, Illinois, and attention visa office. here are those documents that I was talking about. So when I made reference to the template for the visa application form for long-term stay, this is what it looks like. I'm going to just hyperlink here and hopefully, let's see here. Let me make sure, oops, there it is. Hopefully you all can see this. This is the document that has the visa application form. So as you can see, I've kind of answered some of these questions and then I put some direction on a couple things. So for instance, 29 and 30, those must match your flight itinerary. So they're looking at those dates on this form and comparing it to that flight itinerary, that round trip. So make sure they match. If you are doing the visa in person, you will sign this in the presence of the consul or in person, you will sign this in front of them. If you are mailing in, you need to get this signed by a notary. You have to do your signature in front of a notary. And so we do have a notary here at Lakeshore campus in the Sullivan Center on the first floor at the hub. So that's one place that you can go. There's other services that have notary services around the city, but it's for free here at the hub if you need that. So if you have questions regarding this form, you can, again, always reach out to me and I'm happy to help with that. This is, again, that form that we talked about. It's the blank affidavit of support. And that's linked here. I'll just click on that. That is if you are having a parent that is assisting you with the financial process. This has to be filled out and again signed by a notary down here in front of a notary. They need to sign that. And then this is that form I talked about here as well, which is the consent to send by mail. Let me make sure that that clicked in there for you. There we go. And this is the declaration for mailing passports. So you would fill this out and sign and date this. This does not need to be done in front of a notary, just so you're aware of that. Just kind of wrapping up everything, I'm available to review your visa application and documents. Just make sure that you please set up an appointment via Navigate. If you are a visiting student, I have another link in my signature block if you email me so we can set up a Zoom. And I'm happy to go over the documents with you. Our software system for Loyola students is Navigate, but for the visiting students, I have a connection for Zoom that also links up to my calendar. So, and it has my available days and times. So I am happy to go over the whole process with you as well. I am located in the Sullivan Center in Suite 206 up on the second floor. Like I said, I don't mind if you stop in the office, and if I'm available, I'm more than happy to answer a question quickly. But given usually the details that are involved with the student visa process, it takes much longer than a 2-minute question. So I do, and I'd hate for you to come here and I'm not available. So I do encourage you to do the Navigate appointments or email. But if it's a quick question and I'm available, I'm always happy to help. So with that being said, let's go over any questions you may have. It looks like there's a lot from what I can see in the chat. I'm just going to stop sharing this for a second, and let's see if we can answer. If you want to, if you're comfortable taking yourself off of Zoom, off of mute, you're more than happy to, I'm more than happy to answer questions directly that way. Let's see, I'm trying to look if these have been. Looks like these have been answered, a lot of them. Does anybody have any questions?
Hello, I have one I just asked on the chat.
Okay.
I'm a visiting student, and is there like a website or where could I find a notary to sign in front of? Because I'd like to do a mail-in.
Okay, yeah. So you're a visiting student, you're not here at Loyola. So I would
Yes.
recommend just Googling for your city, wherever you're at. Your university may actually have a notary on site. So perhaps kind of Google within your school services to see if they have a notary. Usually there's quite a few, like the records and registration department usually has notaries. So, but you may have to like schedule an appointment or something with them. I would start with your home institution and see if there's anything there. Otherwise, you can Google, like I know FedEx sometimes has that service as well, but there's a fee usually involved with that. So usually the universities, or at least I know our university, we have that as a free service. So not to incur an additional cost, it all adds up. I would look to see if there's something similar at your home institution.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I know you said that our move-in date was August 28th, and I was wondering when you suggest that we plan to fly there and to fly back so we can book those tickets.
Absolutely. So let me, I want to share my screen again. I want to show you all the Loyola, hopefully you can see this. This is the luc.edu/Rome. And so this is the main Rome web page. When you're here under academics, you're going to want to select academic calendar. And so you're going to see here under fall, when you click on that, this column here for 2024. So the official move-in date for all students is, as I mentioned, August 28th. Typically, students will book a flight on August 27th from the States. And so, like, for instance, I know for Chicago, there's usually an afternoon flight and it'll go over the evening and you land in at SCO, the International Airport in Rome, in the morning. So again, everybody has different budgets. You know, some may do direct flights, some may do one or two stops on the way. You just have to be mindful that you arrive at some point here on August 28th. So, does that help? And then the return, you have to depart. Mandatory departure for all students is on December 13th. So book your flight to depart on the 13th. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
I have another question. So I know that there is like a deadline for sending out, I think that flight itinerary, and it's at April 12th.
Yeah,
However,
it's actually April 1st.
oh, April 1st. Oh,
Yeah.
so I currently have, well, I'm like trying to see which consulate or embassy, if it's better to do it like in Venezuela or do it here in Chicago, as I'm not sure if I'm gonna be here. I already scheduled an appointment with Chicago consulate, but it's on June 14th. So is it possible for me like to move like the upload or the deadline for the flight itinerary, as like I would like first to have like the the visa appointments?
Yeah, Clarissa, why don't you email me and
Okay.
let's you and I on the side, we can kind of chat a little bit more about that because I have some concerns if we do something later. And so it just becomes a timeline. So you and I can talk a little further about Chicago consulate versus the Venezuelan one, I think you said. So if you just want to email me and then we can chat a little further in regards to that. I just want to make sure that we're getting you the best approach to that.
Okay, yeah, sure. I will email you, and also if not, I can schedule an appointment through Navigate too. Like
Yeah,
just talk through
yeah,
it. I think that's fine.
absolutely. And are you, Clarissa, are you a Loyola student?
Yeah, I'm here in Chicago right now. Yeah. Is
Perfect.
that like over the summer? Like if I get an internship, it's what depends if I'm like staying in Chicago over the summer. So as
Sure.
I don't know that, that's why I schedule my appointment with Chicago consulate or embassy. But like
Mhm.
if not, I wanna know like which are my options with the Venezuelan like embassy.
Yeah, and the other thing, Clarissa, is the mail-in option might be your best bet, just given
Okay.
your uncertainty of where you're going to be for the summer. So, but we can talk a little further in depth about that. But I think that might be a better route for you, just the mail-in option. But again, let's talk. So send me an email or schedule Navigate and we can go in depth a little bit more on that.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have another quick question
Of course.
about flights. So on some of our documents, when they talk about our arrival and departure date, would our arrival date be, for instance, if our flight is set to leave the 27th from the States or the 28th when we arrive in Rome?
Right. So your arrival date with that visa application form is when you land, when you're arriving into what we call the Schengen territory. So for instance, let me pull this up. If you are doing a direct flight from the States to Rome, then your arrival date is going to be that August 28th. Like if you depart on the 27th from the States and you arrive on that direct flight to Italy on the 28th, that would be your date. If you are, and I'm just trying to find it real quick here, sorry. Here we go.
No worries.
If you are landing first in one of these Schengen countries, so if you depart on the 27th, and let's say you are landing in Germany, you are going to want to put here up in 23, you're going to put that you're landing in Germany and then the date here. That'll be, and typically what will happen if you're leaving the States on the 27th, you're flying to, let's say, Germany, your arrival date most likely will be the 28th, and then you'll do a transfer and you'll fly down to Italy, which will be on the same date, the 28th. But so just be careful, one, that you put, if you're landing in a Schengen country, that first entry, that first place that you're landing, but the dates here have to match those flight itineraries, and that arrival date would be when you get there.
Okay, thank you.
Was that helpful?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
good.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the flight itinerary, I asked a question in the chat if it was necessary to book the flight like by April 1st, right?
That's the deadline we have because we want to be able to generate those letters and get those out to you April 15th, keeping in mind that you all are about to then descend into finals and you're out by May. We want to make sure that you're getting those letters before you depart for the summer. And also we want to make sure that those letters are generated and out to you in time for that potential mail-in. Like I said, that could take 4 to 8 weeks. So we put that deadline at April 1st because we want to make sure that we're getting those out to you by mid-April.
Okay, yeah, because I mean the question I had is that I usually I think I'll be in Europe already like a month before. Is it necessary for me to put the flight from the States to wherever I will be at, or is it the flight that's most important just to Rome?
Well, Daniela, we may have to talk a little more in depth about that because when you're saying Europe, there are some rules in regards to travel into Schengen territories. So that becomes a little bit of an issue. So you and I are going to have to potentially talk on the side about that. I need to get some more details from you. So if you wouldn't mind emailing me or setting up a Navigate appointment, we can talk about that.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. As a reminder, what I want to remind all the you as students is you're going into Italy as a student. And so we are producing or assisting you in obtaining a student visa. So there is a start date and an end date. And so, kind of given the climate of the world right now, things are a little bit tighter as far as regulations and things like that. So you have to be mindful that, with the university and the student visa, as I mentioned, there's a start and an end date. And so you can't present yourself as a student beyond those dates. That would be a violation. You're not a student if you're somewhere before or after those dates. So I just want to make sure that you are aware of that just in general for everybody. So any other, let me see if I can pull up if there's any other questions here in the chat. I think my friend Adam and Abby have been great in answering those, so thank you. Let's see. Any other questions? Anybody? If not, then we'll end the recording. And then, as I mentioned, that recording I'll make available on our site here. And actually, I can show you all where we would have that, which is super helpful. Let me just pull it up for you. And then this is a great spot, once I pull it up for you, to see where we'll have that information that you can utilize for the future, because there's a lot of info that's going back and forth. Let me just share this with you real quick. When you are on the Go Global website, so abroad.luc.edu, you can plug in under programs the John Felice Rome Center, or if you are within your registration on the left hand side, there's a button that says view program. If you select that gray button, it's going to direct you to here, which I mentioned is the brochure on the Go Global. And so there's tabs here that are super helpful to you that I would recommend going through. This, for instance, talks about the cost sheet, what's billable, non-billable, things like that. But the one thing that I want to point out here is, as I mentioned earlier, is this is where those slides and the video from today will be posted. So you can go back at any time and review this information to assist you with that student visa process. Okay. All right, if there are no further questions, thank you for joining us, and I hope it was helpful. And again, feel free to reach out to any of us, specifically me for the post acceptance. And I am here to help you. That, you know, I want to make this process smooth as possible and easy as possible. So I am a resource, and I want to make sure that we get you off to Rome safely. Thank you, everybody, for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.